has a black god, has a black person that heads it up. If you go into about the Buddhas in India, if you go to China and Fuxi, if you go to Japan, you got Zaha. If you go to, if you're looking at either the gods of the Greek, and so Zeus, the one who was on Mount Olympus, the burnt-faced bird god there. When you go about Apollo, the son of Zeus. When you go to India, you got a blue-black god, Krishna. Even in Scandinavia, in the Netherlands, you got Tyre, was a woolly-haired, dark-skinned guy, and a guy named Thor. Okay, you got Athena, you had Isis, you had Lao Tse, you had Scotland, Scotia. In Mexico, you had Quetzalcoatl, Ixtilton, you had Kali, and well, anyway, Circes and Diane and Delphi. The orcas of the Delphi even had black women there who were very psychic. Now, they don't touch any of this. There is only one religion that does not have a black savior. And guess what religion that is, where most people here worship every Sunday and then clap their hands and stamp their feet and will not accept the idea that there may have been even a black Jesus, because this is where he was misnamed. Now, when I say all of that, I'm simply saying blackness and power have gone hand in hand for the longest. It's only recently, when we got miseducated, when we went into a time of darkness and had to get the religions that we had, which was spirituality, into a religion that let people dominate us, that we lost out on all of that. So the thing is, what made these people gods, or what made these persons God? What made them have more power than the people that were worshiping them? You don't worship or you don't respect somebody that's just like you unless you love yourself. So these were people who were all over the place that seemingly had great power and somebody worshiped them. Now, when you see that, you will also say that they had servants or people who served them, angels, demons. If you look on the Great Pyramid, you see upright walking serpents. You see eagle-looking gods, if you would. You see gods with long claws. Now, these are all people either that are being stylistic, as they try to tell you when you go to Oriental Institute and all like this, University of Chicago, where they have these museum pieces, or there must have been something that looked differently, that had great power, that people respected. And this is where you start getting into what you would call aliens. Now, let's start out by separating what an alien is. An extraterrestrial is one thing. Many people lump them together. When you use the word extraterrestrial, you're talking about a form from terrestris. One of the old names for Earth is Terra, terrestris. That means extraterrestrial is somebody from a planet like this that had a little bit extra than there are other people on a planet like this. An alien can be anything, and please hear me as I choose my words very carefully, anything that's intelligent. I said anything that's intelligent. You might have a praying mantis. You might have a bunny. You might have anything. And a guy told me one time something that blew my mind and is still blowing my mind, but as I get wiser and get a little bit older, I began to say, this is something else. I was on a farmland. God, this was almost 30 years ago. And he picked up a shovel. He said he had some soil there where it was a good harvesting, he had a good farm. He said, Blair, he said, I'm going to pick up this shovel here. He said, you pick up that dirt here. He said, look at that dirt. What do you see? I said, well, you know, same old thing. Long story short, he said, if you take a magnifying glass and you look at that soil and dirt, see what you say. And he happened to have one in his pocket, so I knew he'd been planning for me. So I looked at it, and I was astounded. I saw things moving in there. The whole ground seemed to be just quivering. And then he said, look at it closer. And I got amazed. I saw monsters in there. I saw things with tentacles and hooks in there. I saw every kind of thing. And he said, now, put that under an electron microscope if you ever get a chance. Well, I didn't get a chance to do that till 3 years later, and I was just astounded. What I saw was this whole soil, one shovel, had all kind of creatures in there. They were fighting, they were warring, they were doing everything one. And then he made a statement to me. He said, state that everything you see there has a chance to reach fruition. I said, what do you mean by fruition? To go as high as they can, and they have a planet on which they can do it. I said to myself, I'm not going to even say anything to this brother. This brother's lost his mind. But when I was into biology, and zoology of science was my minor there, I'm an engineer also. So I began to use just that, and I found out that when you look into an electron microscope, you got a whole world in there. Then I began to relate that to my own body. And we have quadrillions, if not millions of cells in our own body. All of them doing things, all of them active, fighting and warring. And we are supposed to be the God of this system, the body that we're in. Most of us don't even know how to begin to rule our own bodies. How are we going to do anything else again? Then, when you go and you look under a telescope, out to a telescope, and you look at the endless spaces out there, and all you do is see dots. If you can ever stop chemtrails trailing so much, you see these dots are supposed to be stars. Stars are supposed to be suns. That means if the suns are anything like the one we have, there are planets around them. That means that there's, you pick a figure, there must be quadrillions, not millions, decillions of planets out there just waiting, and then we're told that we are probably the only planet that's inhabited with intelligent life. And I don't think we're too intelligent here anyway, so I don't even know why they add that in there. But so I'm just saying, if that is the case, what must be out in the cosmos? What must be out in the galaxy? What must be out in the constellations? And unless you begin to know that when people begin to travel and creatures begin to travel interdimensionally, we might find anything coming to our planet, because obviously there must be all kind of life forms out there just waiting. And many of these life forms that came there were dark in hue. Many of these life forms that came here battled what was called, in many cases, they battled what were called dracons, and that's why you see these dragons everywhere in China. You see Quetzalcoatl down in Mexico. There are these big heads and fangs down there at Tiwanaku, at Zato, at Uxmal. There was always a battle going on here, and the ones that seemingly saved the planet and why they were revered were what they now call the Olmecs, and that's a misname. The Olmecs should be called the Washita Moors. This is what they should be called, and I repeat that, the Washita Moors. From all the way up in Nome, Alaska, and Nova Scotia, all the way down to Argentina and Venezuela, you have these big, colossal, basalt heads and stone heads looking so negroid and Africoid that you cannot depict them. In fact, they've even been dumped into the ocean where they try to get rid of it, where the oceans have also parted. So I'm simply saying some species came here looking that way, that seemingly helped and rescued some of the people that were here on Earth, and this is why they were worshipped, this is why there are heads everywhere, and this is where you start getting the battle between extraterrestrials and aliens. And the extraterrestrials in this case were what they call Olmecs, Washita Moors, who I state came from Mars by way of Sirius, and that gets into another whole discussion of who the gods really are.
Brother LJ, do you have any questions for Blair before I ask him something? Do you have anything that based on what he just said?
Me first. Dr. Blair.
Oh, hold on, Brother Rashid. Yeah, Brother Rashid, go ahead.
Hey, Brother Rashid, how are you?
All right.
And
Welcome back. Listen, I want to ask you not a question, but also for you to repeat that. You said that proper name for the Olmec should be the Washita Moors. Correct. Moors.
Yeah, no, not Moors, not the one from Morocco and Mauritania that came over in the 750 and 1125 into Etrusca and up into Ionia and places like that. I'm not talking about those Moors. I'm talking about the Moors from Lemuria. Those were the ones that were here when there was no Etrusca. Those were the ones that...
Dr. Blair, this is the second part of the question, real fast. Pardon me, Brother CJ. Listen, but please, Dr. Blair, will you be going into detail on... Of course he is, man. Okay.
If the audience is there and they want, then yes, this is where we go. As I was saying before, we're going to start with the 18th dynasty and King Tut, Akhenaten, Nefertiti, Ai, Mu, the priest of Ra and Amun and all this kind of thing. And then we'll go from there.
There's a great emphasis on Egypt in these days. Does this have anything to do with the new establishment of government, or how we will be governing ourselves? And this is my final question, and peace to the family. Does this have anything to do with our contemporary time?
I think so. A lot of these people are reincarnates. Uh-oh, here we go again. A lot of these people are crystal children that are being born now, the oldest souls that are still coming back here now. We had indigos being born, but they're now being replaced. That's why they got these movies coming about superheroes with strange powers. Well, the powers are being brought back because we didn't have enough energy coming from our sun to support that kind of power. So now we are a binary star-sun system. We now have two suns sitting out there. How many astrologers, how many astronomers, meteorologists, astrophysicists do you hear telling you that we are a binary star-sun system? But I teach people, and many have done it, how to see that second sun, how to photograph it, and what is happening is highly magnetic. So now we can begin to use the pineal gland and the pituitary gland up in the hypothalamus. We can begin to recognize those energies that we had lost. We can begin to unify ourselves and come together in the concert of the Creator's mind. When you do that, anything is possible. So my idea is that we're going from the third dimension to the fifth dimension, and December 21st, 2010, we will be fully into the fifth dimension, and this is when it's going to get a new beginning, because we'll be losing our arch enemy, in general, the Dracons, because as I say, there are some good ones, but most of them are not. And when we lose them, because the planet is putting them out, then we'll find out what we really work, because we'll have the planet back again for ourselves. But
Dr. Blair, let me cut you off for 1 second. Now, all right, to the average person out there, now you got to remember, this is Blog Talk Radio, this is Internet Radio, anybody can listen. When you're saying our greatest enemy and you say they're Dracons, you may not know who you're talking about. It's to the average person out there walking down the street. Their greatest enemy is that cracker on that street, who's harassing them, who's killing them, who's imprisoning them. So what do you mean by the Dracons? This is what I'm saying, Dr. Blair. How are you going to relate to a people who have been oppressed for hundreds of years by this cracker? How are you going to tell them that their greatest enemy is the Dracons when all they see is this blonde-haired, blue-eyed beast who is trying to oppress them? Just break that down for, this person who may be wondering what you mean by Dracon, brother.
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, I don't use that term you use, just like I don't use the N-word. We have to begin to understand, we lump things and creatures together. There are many people, oh God, how do I even begin to approach this? There are many people of all races that are encrypted.
It's a real question, Dr. Blair.
There are many people of all races who are mind controlled. If you heard this guy that just got to cutting off the guy's head and then stuff, we're under control. And it is because of draconic methodology, because of a whole race of upright walking serpents called Dracons. And the white race, if you're going to lump everybody together, and they're as different as you and I, but we don't seem to understand it because we're such a prejudice. You know one thing? We can't get along, black, white, yellow, and brown. What are we going to do with zebra stripe, pink, green, and aqua, and then jet black, and pink white? I mean, we haven't even begun to feed for what the family of man is. I don't like to use those words like that. The whole point is, if a guy is evil, got a skinhead, comes up and calls you a name and hurts you, then I don't like him. But I've had some brothers, when I was younger, to attack me I had done nothing about, and they look just like me or darker than me. So I can't lump that together. What we have got to understand is we're at a crisis point now. Our planet is under quarantine. This planet is now being subject, if you notice, did you hear that shift, that flash in the sky with boom? The up and down the East Coast was seen about 3 days ago. People were calling and everywhere the big boom. That was a spaceship they shot out. Okay? There is a battle going on. We don't begin. So I don't care what people are saying. People have got to wake up. So let them hear another side. My point is, don't worry about what I'm saying. See if what I'm saying makes sense and go out and do the research. Because if you're going to stay asleep, you might never wake up. And this is the one they'll put into all these caskets out here. These are the ones that the FEMA and the brother was talking about. This is what they have them for. Those dumbed down, comatose, brainwashed, inoculated, vaccinated, and encrypted people who cannot survive on either side of the fence. Because there is a power, there is energy, and when you wake up to what it is, you can tap into that power. And this is what they don't want you to do. So I simply say, I don't care what they think. That's not the point. And I always tell people, do not come to me for truth. Come to me for facts. The only way you'll find truth is going within. Remember that little saying I say about there is no truth until you decide what truth is in this dimension? It's true. So all I do is give you years of research through the Creator's guide. You take what I say, don't just judge it till you hear the whole story, then go out and look at it and see if it makes sense. And this is all I can say. This is all I ask. I am not a master. I'm a researcher. I hope a good one. And people come out and question all they want.
Okay. Are these good times, Dr. Blair, or are these bad times we're living in? Who are a little more spiritual may say that these are good times because we're getting rid of everything we have to get rid of to bring